Hi, welcome back to Should There Be a Mandatory Retirement Age? I'm Cassidy Madison, and I'm here to tell you that no, there should not. Firstly, there's been an alarming explosion of youth unemployment in recent years, meaning that with no influx of new workers, companies actually have to keep their older ones to stay afloat, making the mandatory retirement age unsustainable. Secondly, in our world where we care so much about social media and all that, instead of having younger people going into workforce/industry careers, they're actually becoming influencers, meaning that they get money through promoting products, brand deals, so be it, and then for them there just isn't that need to clock in and out at 9 to 5. However, for older people, who maybe aren't as technologically advanced, or maybe they just don't care about that sort of thing as much, there is still that need for the 9 to 5. Also, it used to be that right out of high school you had a job. It would maybe be the same job that your grandfather had, that your father had, and it would be the same job that you would have for the rest of your life. However, as we all know, the world is quite different from then, and now a job simply doesn't suffice, especially with the influx of younger individuals who are attending college. Take our class, for example. They're actively looking for a career. And when you're in college, most of the time it's about a 4-year ride, meaning that that's a gap where the companies aren't getting any fresh workers, meaning that they would need to keep their older ones to have any employees. Staying on the track of the impact education has on working, most educated people actively want to work for longer. And cognitively, they can because they have worked their brain a little bit longer. So 65 isn't where they start to cognitively decline. In fact, they're still doing perfectly fine. Meaning that the mandatory retirement age would unfairly cut off workers who aren't ready to stop working. Also, more than 1 billion older people, which is the polite term we give to those 65 and older, make up the world's current population. It's even been estimated to double by the year 2050. So my question is, because that isn't too far away from our own generation, how do you think you'd feel if you got booted out of your job that you still wanted and were capable of working simply because you were too old? Especially when you take into the life expectancy for United States citizens, which is 78.9, the notion of having a mandatory retirement age of 65 seems a little ridiculous, because that's approximately 14 years where you would be out of a job, 14 years of no way to stay financially secure like you have been for the past 64 years, 14 years of no way to feel relevant in our oh-so-ageist society, 14 years where the rates of depression and even suicide in older adults go up, especially older white men who don't have a job. It's actually one of the highest groups of people who commit suicide or attempt suicide. So abolishing this mandatory retirement age can actually reduce welfare expenditure, which is like government-provided programs to help pay for things. Take, for example, when I pay my Social Security, it actually can help go to my dad's retirement plan. But if we abolish it, then we can keep our own money, and then my dad wouldn't need that from me because he has a job that he still is cognitively and physically capable of working. Also, getting rid of this mandatory retirement age can increase self-reliance because we actually believe what we believe about aging can happen to us. So if you have gone on an 8-mile run your entire life, every morning, and all of a sudden your work is like, hey, you're too old, you can't be working here, like you physically can't, then you're going to see that that 8-mile run is maybe a little bit more difficult. Maybe it becomes a 7-mile run, 6, 5, and so on, until you realize that you have started to physically decline because of what other people have told you, which is pretty unfortunate. But getting rid of the retirement age would actually help boost self-reliance. All right, so now for arguments against the resolve, or the biggest reason why the mandatory retirement age is set at 65 is because that's the average age for when it becomes possible for people to experience problems with their physical or mental well-being. So mainly it provides a safeguard against the effects of old age on people like judges, surgeons, and other professional practitioners. Mainly with doctors, it's super important because sometimes medical professionals will work for too long after experiencing cognitive and physical decline to protect their status, because we live in a world where what you do is so much more important than who you are. Medical practitioners will hold on to that title for as long as possible, even if that results in malpractice. In fact, research found that mortality rates of older surgeons performing coronary artery bypass grafts, which is a type of surgery that improves blood flow to the heart, is a lot higher than with younger surgeons. So this mandatory retirement age not only protects the practitioner's reputation, but more importantly, it protects the patient's life. However, 65 years old is not a death sentence. Just because you turn 65, it doesn't mean your brain is just going to stop working. It doesn't mean your heart is just going to stop working. It just means that that's when it becomes more possible for the average person to start going into decline. Which is why I believe that there should not be a mandatory retirement age due to people of all ages being at different levels of cognitive and physical capabilities. I mean, just think about it. Do you want to have to take care of your parents who can still cognitively and physically work, but they've been told that they can't? Do you want to have to be 65 and live about 14 more years relying on government provided programs? Do you want to have to use food stamps? Do you want to have to not feel as physically and cognitively capable? I know that I definitely wouldn't. Which is why I believe that retirement should be a choice, not a force. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Casty Madison.